Hey guys, it's David from Automotive Press. As you know, I do have soft spots for cars that are built in Japan, mainly because I was born and raised in Japan and I worked for many Japanese companies. I worked in many Japanese factories in Japan, and so I know how their work ethics affect the total quality and so forth. Now, I do agree that most of the cars built in the US and Canada these days are as good as those built in Japan, at least in terms of practical, functional things. But there are always some subtle differences that do impact the look and feel of cars built in Japan. That include this one, which is a refreshed 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander. And if you're following my channel closely, you will know that I've already done a full review on the new Outlander that's being facelifted, and so go and watch that please if you haven't done so yet. But what I want to do today is actually come back to Mitsubishi Outlander, which I'm driving this week, and talk about 10 things that you probably are not aware of when it comes to how good the Mitsubishi Outlander really is. Even though the 2025 model is a facelifted version, not all new, they made lots of changes, so much so that I'm in love with this Mitsubishi Outlander. I like it better than many of its competitors from other Japanese brands, and I'm going to explain to you why that's the case as well. Let's go. Welcome back. So here we have the 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander refreshed and facelifted for this year. Now, why do I like it so much? Well, there are many reasons, but I do want to point out 10 things that are kind of unique and you might not be aware of when it comes to the Outlander for 2025. And the first one is the fact that this is only built in Japan for the North American market. So it doesn't matter which version of Outlander you buy, this one, the refreshed version, or the plug-in hybrid version, which hasn't been refreshed yet. They're both built in Japan, and that is a little bit different from the competitors because most of the Japanese competitors are building their SUVs in many different places, including North America and also sometimes Japan as well. So for example, if you take the Toyota RAV4, it's built in Canada, in Ontario, also built in Kentucky, in the US, and the plug-in hybrids are built in Japan. But for the future RAV4s, I think most of them will be built in the US for US market, and most of them will be built in Canada for Canadian market because of the tariffs and so forth. What about Nissan Rogue? Same thing, is built in US and also built in Japan. And they were importing some Nissan Rogues from Japan, but right now they're going to start shifting to those built in the US, again for tariffs reasons. And Honda CR-V is same thing, it's built in the US, built in Canada, and so all the CR-Vs you buy here are not built in Japan. So when you look at all the different brands, especially the Japanese ones, the Mitsubishi is unique in the sense that all Outlanders are built in Japan. And yes, I'm a little bit biased about that because I was born and raised there, and I know that the quality coming from Japan will be phenomenal. Again, as I mentioned, those built in the US or Canada these days are just as good as those built in Japan, but there are always subtle differences, and I do think that those subtle differences are somewhat meaningful, especially for people like myself who appreciate all the difference in terms of details and quality. And I've done a quality check already in my past video, but if I can show it to you right now in terms of the gap and alignment, it's just fantastic and it's almost perfect. So I especially like the paint job, which I'll come back to later on. So the Outlander is all built in Japan. The only other SUV or crossover that I can think of that's built in Japan for the North American market will be the Mazda models, CX-70, CX-90, but those are bigger. And the CX-5s are also built in Japan as well, but that's going to go through a major change sometime later this year. So it's going to be quite interesting and of course very competitive in this market. But the Japan-built Outlander does have some advantage because of that. What else can I tell you? Well, the second thing I do want to point out is that in most cases, facelifting a model includes changing in terms of front design, a little bit in the back, which they've done. For example, this grille is no longer attached to the hood, so when you open it, it's separated now, and so forth. But what I want to point out is that they've done something interesting with Outlander, which is the fact that the hood and the front fenders are now steel away from aluminum, which at first doesn't seem to make sense because obviously aluminum is the way to go these days. It's lighter, maybe even more environmentally friendly in the sense that it's easier to recycle. But the problem with aluminum hood is the fact that they shake quite a bit and they're quite malleable. So you'll notice that many owners of different models are complaining these days about what we call the hood flutter, which means the hood is kind of shaking at highway speed. And that's because aluminum is thin, it's light, and it's quite sensitive to winds and vibrations. So, there's a bit of a problem in a sense that when you're driving and you see the hood fluttering or moving, it can create some additional noise and vibration and a harshness issue. And so that's why the engineers have decided to move back to steel panels so that they're solid and improves the structure, improves the rigidity, and also makes the whole car a little bit more quieter. In fact, they're saying that it is as much as 0.5 dB quieter in terms of interior noise, and overall the sound isolation improvement is actually 6 dB, which is substantial. Well, soon you'll understand why those things are important, because they also made some changes to the stereo system, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But making a comeback to steel panels is the right thing from an engineering perspective for rigidity and also for better road isolation. So making all these changes to improve NVH and making the car feel a little bit more solid is a very important point, and that's the third thing I wanted to mention. Okay, so now I'm inside the Outlander, and I really like this car a lot, both inside and out, and especially from an engineering perspective. But the fourth point might be the most important one, which is the fact that they made some radical and drastic change to the audio system. The audio system is now partnered with Yamaha. It's Yamaha's first real partnership with an automaker, and they made such a radical change to the audio system that I'm going to say the stereo sound and the quality of the audio coming out of this Outlander with the Yamaha system may be one of the best in the world, even if you include some cars that cost twice or 3 times more than Outlander. I've been listening to it all week, and it's just astonishing that they're able to squeeze in and put in this level of audio quality in a very affordable crossover SUV like this, and that we can enjoy world-class stereo and sound and music in a very affordable package. I think it's an absolutely outstanding thing, and you'll have to listen to believe the quality of sound. I can't obviously play music right now on this video right now, and I'm going to give you some more details later on in another video, but they actually had to change the structure and add some additional insulation, and also change the body materials to make this whole car like a speaker box. That's one of the things that they did, so that the speaker will have a proper enclosure, proper sound reflecting off the windows and the body, without having issues that we sometimes have in the past, which is the fact that speakers vibrate in the door panels here. They often vibrate and makes a little sound. That's a common issue. None of that exists because they reinforce the speaker enclosure and the door as well. But more than that, just the calibration, the level of technology that's built into the system, totally amazing. Now I'll talk about this more in a separate video. Okay, so I'm on the road with the Outlander now, and again, I've done a full review on this, but I want to reiterate and re-emphasize a very important point, which is my fifth point, and that is the fact that they spent enormous amount of time re-engineering and changing and calibrating the suspension system, including the springs, the shocks, even the stabilizer bar. The body also has a higher rigidity and so forth, which all translate to a better handling, a better feel on the road, especially the steering feel. This is something that I pointed out to the chief engineer a few years ago when they first introduced the Outlander, and we had a drive review in Vancouver of all the place. And I told chief engineer that your Outlander is almost perfect, but the steering is too light and it doesn't have enough feeling. It's too numb, and that is its weakest point. And you know what? He and his team went back to the drawing board and actually recalibrated and changed the software and the hardware, and the steering has a much better feel, better response. It feels more accurate, and I can feel the steering a little bit better as well. So clearly they listened to some of our feedback and made some important changes. I would say the steering feel and overall handling has improved 10 to 15%. That's my kind of subjective rating. And the ride is also improved because the ride was a little bit stiff and a bit noisy in the previous version, but the new model, I would say, once again, maybe 10 to 20% better in terms of overall NVH and overall feeling. So it is a substantial change, especially considering this is a facelifted model, not an all-new model. But in terms of steering and the ride and so forth, almost feels like this is a whole new re-engineered vehicle. So kudos to the chief engineer and his team for making some very important and welcome changes for steering, handling, and ride. The second thing you might want to keep in mind is that even though people complain that there are some Nissan components in this vehicle, this car was engineered and designed and built in Japan by Mitsubishi engineers, by Mitsubishi workers. So I want to make sure that there are clear distinction between Nissan product and this one, namely Nissan Rogue. So even though they do share some platform and they do share some components, including the engine and the transmission, I really do think there are some Very important differences because final engineering and final product development and production were all done by Mitsubishi people in Japan. So it does have the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, which by the way is naturally aspirated, not turbocharged, and so I do like that. It's actually quite a peppy engine. It feels quite good. It's a proven engine, so you don't really need to worry about. I know there has been some issue with the CVT from Nissan in the past, but that's all being resolved, so don't worry about the CVT in this new Outlander as well. So you might want to say that this is a clone of a Nissan Rogue. That's far from the truth. It is not a clone. It is a Mitsubishi product, but they do share some engineering and some components between Nissan and Mitsubishi. What else can I tell you? Well, the 7th point is the fact that they came up with this very special color called a Moonstone Gray. If this color was offered in like a Porsche or Audi or something like that, would have been, you know, a $4,000 special paint job, because it's got 3 outer layers of paint. It's got a special flakes that you can see. It's a mixture of gray and blue. And I know it's hard to tell from a video, but when the sun reflects, you can actually count and see purplish blue flakes mixed in with silver and gray flakes. And the flakes are also really, really fine. And this is kind of a new trend in the kind of luxury market where they make the flakes really small and they have additional coating and additional layer to give that depth. So you can really see that the paint has a strong color pigmentation, very, very deep color. The flakes really reflect the light, and overall it kind of looks like a gray, but also kind of looks like a blue, and you can tell the colors are kind of intermingled with each other. And this is perhaps the most beautiful paint I've seen in a car, especially for this price. There's no way you can get this level of quality and this kind of paint in affordable crossover SUV market. You just cannot get this level of quality of paint in a RAV4 or CRV or Nissan Rogue. I would argue that maybe Mazda is the only company that also have a really beautiful paint job as well. But clearly, if you're going to buy the Outlander, this is the color you have to buy. The 8th point I wanted to talk about is the all-wheel drive system in this Outlander, which is absolutely world-class. It is Mitsubishi's super all-wheel control system, which is a kind of fancy name for all-wheel drive. But what makes it different from other ones is the fact that there are a lot more control over torque in terms of front, back, even left to the right. And therefore, the car can kind of give you a feeling of a rear-wheel drive without the issues related to rear-wheel drive when it comes to traction. Because in the slippery conditions, you want all-wheel drive 50-50, or maybe even a little bit front biased to provide maximum traction over winter conditions. So you do want to maintain that. But in the dry weather, you want to have some bias toward the rear, because rear-wheel drive cars have a more natural feeling and just more fun to drive. So with the Mitsubishi system, it's capable of doing that by transferring torque front to back or left to right to both have better control over a slippery condition, but also to give you a more natural, better handling and feel all around. And that is unique to the Mitsubishi system. The 9th point is about the fact that Mitsubishi truly back up the product with probably the best warranty in the world. In Canada, we have 5-year full warranty, 100K bumper to bumper, and then a 10-year, 160,000 kilometer powertrain warranty, which is unheard of. You just never get that from other mainstream automakers. And in the US, obviously it's basically the same kind of stuff, but in miles. So you get 5-year, 60,000 miles full warranty, or 10-year, 100,000 mile full powertrain warranty. And again, in both cases, Canada or US, the warranty is second to none. It's the best in the world, and you just cannot get this kind of warranty. In most mainstream automakers, if you look at Toyota or Nissan, all of them offer basically a 3-year warranty, sometimes 4, but in most cases 3. So this is an amazing warranty that backs up their claim that their products are reliable and some of the best in the world. The 10th point that you might not be aware of is the fact that for 2025, this has been refreshed, but the plug-in hybrid model actually stays the same as 2024. So even though 2025 model has received all these changes, including the new Yamaha audio system, an updated hood, updated paint job, all that stuff, the 2025 plug-in hybrid version of the Outlander is not facelifted yet. So you might wonder when that's coming. Well, Mitsubishi won't confirm, but I'm 99.999% sure that the 2026 model year plug-in hybrid version will have all the changes that this one also has. So just wait 6 months or maybe up to a year if you really want to buy a plug-in hybrid version of the Outlander and you want to benefit from all the changes that this particular model has gone through. So those are some of the things you need to keep in mind. I pointed out 10 things that you might not be aware of when it comes to the Outlander. If you want to see a full review of this one, I've already done that when I was in California with the Mitsubishi Drive Review event. So take a look at that, because I've done a couple of videos, in fact, on Outlander, together with Outlander's chief engineer that I spent quite a bit of time with. He's an amazing person, very dedicated, committed, and very knowledgeable. He's what I call Takumi, which means the best of the best. And he's the one that took full responsibility for Outlander from the beginning and made all these amazing changes. So I have kind of fallen in love with Outlander, but also because it's built in Japan, it's engineered in Japan by some of the best people in the world. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and make some comments. And until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.